Maybe you saw my multi-part series on the review of the 2008 product guide for Spyderco, and in that, I don't know if I ever got to the rear of the catalog, I don't think I did, where the Cara Cara brand is. This is the more affordable Chinese-produced sub-brand of Spyderco. And since we didn't get to it, you probably didn't see that I had a box here. And anytime you see a box in one of my catalogs, that means I'm planning the purchase of that blade as soon as I can get the money and just making it happen. And what do you know? That box is marked now because indeed I have a Cara Cara lightweight Byrd knife. Now, for a review, the Cara Cara line comes in different handles. These two are stainless steel handled, and I'm not interested in those. They're just too heavy. Remember, I have kind of a 4-ounce limit on my EDC and tactical knives. I'll go over it only if it offers me something, and I've got so many knives that already fall into that category, I just don't go over it. And if we look right here, sure enough, 5.9 ounces for those stainless steel versions, both of them. Even the G10 handled Cara Cara is heavy. Heavy in my book, 5.5 ounces. And then here we go to the lightweight. Hey, what do you know? Under 4 ounces on the Cara Cara lightweight. And what that means, I'm interested. So, along with another order, I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it, and bam, here it is, the Cara Cara by Byrd. Now, every so often, we'll get a blade whose manufacturer's height lives up to everything they're telling us. And the Cara Cara is along that same line. That everything that Spyderco or Byrd tells us about this knife is spot on. And in a rare moment, I'm going to read you exactly what they're saying. And I'm going to get it off the package back that this knife came in. I went ahead and cut it out. And here we go. We're going to have a little bit of story time here. So you can read along if you want. See if I can get that to focus. And I'll zip through this as quick as I can. Byrd knives are a new species of knives designed and imported by Spyderco. They present a cost-effective alternative to Spyderco's main clip-it line of high-performance knives. Byrd knives stand independently on their own design and performance merits and are engineered in a partnership with Spyderco's research and development, and several knife makers. Engineering, ergonomics, quality control, safety testing, close tolerance manufacturing are controlled and overseen by Spyderco. Production takes place in China by selected knife makers working in conjunction with Spyderco, ensuring that you purchase a reliable, quality product at a competitive price. And then they go on talking about the warranty, which is for 1 year, which is adequate for this price of knife. So again, this is a Spyderco Endura. The Byrd Cara Cara. And the reason I made a mistake there is because they are so similar. And that's how I'm going to run this review. I'm going to take the Spyderco Endura and put it right against the Cara Cara side by side, and we will look at the differences and the similarities between these blades. Now, Byrd tells us this is an independent design, but it pretty much follows the lines of the Endura. Very closely, in fact. In fact, you might even consider the Cara Cara to be a poor man's Endura. They're very similar. So let's talk about the Cara Cara. As we go, I will use the Endura and maybe do some comparison and contrast. The first thing about the Cara Cara I like is the weight. It's fairly lightweight. Indeed, 3.8 ounces falls under my arbitrary 4-ounce limit. That's just me. Call me crazy. The Spyderco is a little bit lighter, 3.7 ounces, but essentially the same weight. The reason they fall under 4 ounces is because Spyderco does such an excellent job of skeletonizing the stainless steel liners in both knives. And I'm not going to concentrate on the Endura. I have a separate video out on that. You can reference it. But trust me, Cara Cara follows the same lines. The stainless steel liners are indeed skeletonized. They're drilled out. And that gets us under the 4 ounces. So good job with that. The blade is very similar to the Endura. You can see it's that Spyderco, traditional Spyderco shape. Now granted, they've done a little bit of profiling here. They want it to look like that Byrd snout or beak, and they pretty much achieve that. Now you may like that design element, you may not. I actually prefer the looks of the Endura over the Cara Cara, but it's still very functional. This is their comet hole, they call. It's a deployment hole. This is the round hole. I don't have a problem with this. Again, your preferences might be just a little bit different. Now the grinds are different on the two blade. two blades. I actually prefer the Cara Caras. You can see they start their grind a little bit, the hollow grinding a little bit higher up on the blade, and on the Endura it's a little bit lower on the blade. And the reason I like that is because that's why I like flat ground blades. I want to move that up as high as possible so I have a very shallow angle going and terminating to a very sharp edge. The widths of the blades are very similar, basically identical. Both thumb ramps are jimped very nicely. You can see that on the right, the Endura's is a little bit finer, more finely machined. On the left, the Cara Caras. But you know what? They're both equally tractionable. Just fine, no problems at all. Now the steel for the Cara Cara is an 8CR13 MOV, as you can see on the tang. And that's analogous to AUS-8 steel. So it's probably going to hold an edge pretty well. Probably not super rust resistant, but still stainless variety. I definitely prefer this VG10 steel of the Endura, but this is more expensive. If you want VG10, buy the Endura. If you're happy with AUS-8 or 8CR, this is your knife. This one's made in China, stamped accordingly, and again, if quality controls are high, who cares where it's made? It doesn't matter. How's the deployment? Actually, the Cara Cara deploys faster than the Endura. And after some study, the reason is because the spring holding closed the Endura is stouter, it's stronger. The Cara Cara's still has the same thickness of spring, but it's just not quite as stout. And that makes it an easily deployed knife. Actually, I prefer it in that respect over the Endura. So not too bad. How's the lockup? Actually pretty darn solid. Up and down, there's no movement at all, and that's our most critical dimension. Side to side, just a slight amount. I did have to dink around with a pivot screw just a little bit right here, and that's about as tight as I can get it. And there is just a slight amount of movement, to be honest with you. This is a very functional blade for both EDC and tactical duties, should we need it that way, just like the Endura. So they're basically identical. Even though the shapes are slightly different, they're pretty much the same. And actually, some of y'all looking at the Cara Cara may like this styling over the Endura. I could totally understand that. How's the handles? Handles are both Zytel, that is fiber reinforced nylon, skeletonized liners in them, very similar in execution. The volcano grip on the Endura is more tractionable, or it gives you more purchase on it than the vertical striations molded into the Cara Cara's handle. Nevertheless, these are not bad. I mean, it could be a lot worse. Not too bad. Ergonomic in hand, just like the Endura is, very similar in that way. You have some design elements here, some comet holes which go through the handle, and the stainless steel liners. And that both lightens the knife and it gives it just that design versatility as well. The jimping, I've already mentioned the sharpness of it. It's very functional, or functional is what I should say. Not too bad. And a nice thing that the Cara Cara has that the Endura does not is this choil area also has jimping on it. Very nicely executed, and it's indented unlike the Endura's. So we can choke up like so on the Cara Cara. You can't do that on the Endura. Not too bad. Both are lockback, so you guys that hate liner locks, maybe this is the knife for you, especially if you're on a budget. This knife generally is under $20. That is amazing. And they both have the David Boyd detent there, which I don't think is necessary. It's more hype than anything, but it's no big deal having it. Big lanyard holds, both functional. Let's look at the clips. The clip on the Endura I actually prefer more. I always like a blackened clip. However, the Cara Cara's is very strong. In fact, it holds in the pocket a little bit better than the Endura. Now granted, we can always remove the clip, bend it down so it provides more purchase, but not too bad. Wish that was blackened, but for the price point, no problem. Just like all Spydercos, we can move it to any of the four corners and adjust how we're going to carry the knife. Tip up, tip down, left, right. You choose. It's a Spyderco or a Byrd. Very nice. Running out of time like I always do. In summary, I will say that the Byrd Cara Cara is an outstanding value. It's analogous in so many ways to the Spyderco Endura, and some rightly could say that it's actually better than the Endura. It opens faster, maybe a little bit more comfortable hole, equally tight lockup, maybe even a little bit better, and definitely cheaper. Good steel, good lockup, good speed, ergonomic. That's the Byrd Cara Cara. That's Nutnfancy's review. Thanks for watching. More coming when I get time.